me while I muck about with a stool for a bit. And Christy's so nice to help me.
Yeah.
I don't normally carry a laptop about with me. There used to be a lot of internet cafes where you could print stuff in Stokescroft. There aren't anymore. I've learned it today. So bear with. Cool. Right, so can I see this? And can people hear me?
Yes.
Yay! Okay, cool. So this is I know you're all adults and we're all in a pub. This is a story predominantly for kids. It's about some Welsh miners. And this is the one that Christy referred to as it's going to rhyme. So please, enjoy and just get into an imaginative sit down, like children's sort of frame of mind. Okay, so this is called the Krumlins. I think this is okay. Right, cool. Okay, thank you. So let's take ourselves down to the end of the land, cross a very long bridge and past marching brass bands. The language sounds funny and different down here, with 2 words on each signpost, but one word is unclear. The hills are quite beautiful, tall and so proud, and the waterfalls whoosh so incredibly loud. As you go further, the hills get much taller. The roads sink below them and you feel much smaller. Follow them down and they shrink to small alleys, which lead to a magical place called the valleys. The valleys were full of old men who mined coal, but now down here often you won't see a soul. The mining of coal is a very old trade. It's how many parts of the valleys were made. Coal is a mineral dug from the ground. It's black as the night and it's shaped kind of round. Miners were men digging pits in the land, deeper and deeper for the black coal so grand. Now the mines all lie quiet, dormant and crumbling, but lean in and listening and you'll hear a faint rumbling. Because there in the dark, right down at the bottom, made of black coal dust, alone and forgotten, live a family of Krumlins, the last of their kind. And this story will tell how they saved this old mine. You see, back in the old days, the miners were busy. They worked so very hard that they made themselves dizzy. The folks in the valleys all needed their coal to light fires in their houses to keep away cold. But as you all learn, coal only lasted so long, and that meant the Krumlins got less and less strong. Now the mine in the valley is dark and forgotten, and the windows and chimneys are terribly rotten. The door looks like a yawn from a horrible mouth. It grins at the homes on the road to the south. But there in the dark you'll find Ma and Pa Krumlin and small Krumlin babies rolling and tumbling. These Krumlins have lived at the base of the mine. They've stayed in that pit for the longest of time. On thin spiky limbs made of dust from the coal, they're black as their night and they're ever so cold. Their eyes sparkle like diamonds down there in the gloom, but the rest of the Krumlins have met a sad doom. The Krumlins, you know now, were made out of dust. The dust from the coal now gave way to the rust. They had once been created by men from the mine who dug up the coal to stay warm all the time. They picked up their axes and went down the pit, chipping the dark coal by bit and by bit. They dig in the mine shafts deeper and deeper, the dust from the coal getting thicker and thicker. And the coal dust would gather in their hair and their curls, and when a breeze blew, it made little dust swells. With the swooshing of axes, the breezes got stronger, and the dust swirled around for longer and longer. Swirls from the coal dust got all stuck together, and Krumlins were forming. What could be better? The new little Krumlins covered the mine. Thousands of families, dusty but fine. They clung to the walls with their spiky dust arms, stuck their legs in the small cracks, safe from all harm. Their mineral eyes all twinkled and shone. The whole mine just sparkled before they were gone. But slowly the miners that swirled up the dust weren't cheerful and whistling, but full of mistrust. The line of old miners grew shorter and shorter, and no one dared speak up but one Krumlin daughter. She said to Pa Krumlin, "What's happened that's different? The mine men aren't swirling the dust in the distance. Only a few come to get coal here each day, and now they look sad when they're going away. Without all the miners, us Krumlins are dying. There's not enough coal dust to keep on supplying." Pa's dusty head shook and he looked to the floor. I tried to deny it, but coal is no more. The miners look sad at the end of the day because the job that they do has been taken away. It's not anyone's fault, but the world spins around, and sometimes that means that new jobs must be found. You see, nobody wanted the coal anymore. They were making clean energy somewhere offshore. The coal was once used to keep people warm, but now there's new kinds of heating to weather a storm. So across the old road, the miners all hid behind their net curtains with rooms dimly lit. They weren't scared of the mine, but it made them feel sad. They remembered the good times before it went bad. Sometimes old miners peek out of their windows and think they see movement down there in the shadows, but the wives of the men who remember the mine shout, "Get out of the window, it's not worth the time." There's no point in dwelling on the past, the wives say. How can we save this old valley today? The old miners could sense that the dust was still moving, but was it their memory or something still living? As the last family here, we need to define how we can save the last Krumlin mine. "Why?" said Mark Krumlin. "What do you know?" And Pa shook his head and spoke ever so slow. "You see that new sign they put over the door?" The Krumlin kids nodded. They'd seen it before. "That sign up there says that 1 week from today, they'll demolish this mine, we'll have nowhere to stay." Now, demolishers sound like quite a mean thing, but just like old miners, they work as a team. Their job is to flatten old buildings and mines. The land where they're built is worth money in time. And sometimes it's true that new things need some space, but sometimes it's best to remember a place. "Now listen," Ma said, as small Krumlins rolled in. "We must work together, you and your kin. We're not daft," said Ma Krumlin. "We know that coal's finished, but what people don't realise is what we've accomplished. We worked hard with the miners in shaping the land, and we won't be demolished just out of hand. We'll use our long limbs and our sparkly eyes to cast scary shadows and create a surprise. Those demolishers don't know about all us Krumlins. They'll run away fast, shaking and rumbling. We're only one family, but when they arrive, we'll show them this mine is really alive." So they swirled in the dust and created a map, where the Krumlins would stand in each crevice and gap, so the light through the cracks would shine right up the wall, and the Krumlins' small shadows looked scarily tall. They practiced and practiced, testing out new positions, stretched their arms and their legs into spiky transitions, so they knew quite exactly and completely precisely where their plan would work best, and then ever so nicely, Ma told all the Krumlins to get a good sleep. For tomorrow, she said, those demolishers weep. In the morning, vans parked at the mouth of the mine, crunching the coal dust once settled by time. Demolishers stood with their hammers and lights, creeping up slowly to the depth of the night. They pulled the old gate out of the way and tiptoed right up to the edge of the cave. The Krumlins could tell they were already afraid, because unlike the Krumlins, they were not very brave. Demolishers don't know the mines and their history, and as the villagers watched through their curtains so twitchy, holding torches like weapons, they crept to the entrance, but the Krumlins were ready and poised with a vengeance. The Krumlins, they knew every inch of that mine, and they knew they could save it even from time. They knew where to stand, so their shadows were cast, tall and foreboding and terribly vast. And although they were only 2 inches high, to the demolishing team, their arms reached the sky. As the demolishers crept through the dark with their lights, Ma told every Krumlin to stretch to full height. The lights of the cracks and their shadows grew long, from the floor to the ceiling. The Krumlins stood strong. The demolishers froze and went pale with pure fear. They swished lights through the darkness to try and see clear. But as they swished and they swooshed, the shadows looked taller, and the dust on the floor swirled faster and faster. The dust started knotting together like lace, and new Krumlins started forming all over the place. In the light of their torches, the shadows they grew, the demolishing team didn't know what to do. Their faces grew paler and they huddled in close, until one of them whispered, "This mine's full of ghosts!" They dropped all their torches and ran against time, screaming and shouting, "You can keep this old mine!" So the miners in houses all cheered and they smiled, threw open their curtains and wives took their childs. They opened their doors and they marched straight to the mine and through that old door that they'd used all the time. They picked up their torches and shone them around, over the cracks in the dark dusty grounds. The old walls now sparkled with hundreds of eyes, and familiar shadows were reaching the skies. Because miners, you see, are not scared of Krumlins. They'd always been there and their presence was humbling. They looked at each other, filled with great pride, and thought, so what next now we've gone back inside? And one of them said, voice booming and loud, "It's time that us miners made this village proud. We know coal is over, but this great old mine shouldn't be lost to the ages of time. Let's make this old place a mining museum. The Krumlins live here and we'll charge folks to see them. They'll share all our stories and tell all their friends. The village will prosper and be happy again." They shone their torches and looked at the wall. to check Krumlins wanted a museum at all. Because the Krumlins, you see, couldn't speak like the men, so they needed to check they were happy again. The Krumlins relaxed and looked at each other. A great plan, they said, and then each Krumlin mother told every new Krumlin, blink your sparkly eyes, then the miners will know that their plan's very wise. So the Krumlins all blinked, over and over, and each miner patted his friend on the shoulder. The mine sparkled again after such a long time, and the Krumlins' plan worked, the valley is fine. People visit the Krumlins from miles around, and they visit the valley and visit the town. And that is important, the miners knew why, a reason as hard to explain as the sky. Because it's not just the Krumlins working away to protect this one mine from all the decay. A place can be found for every old trade, and even after old memories fade, people that carefully shape the whole land are all over the country and terribly grand. And even when time, which can move at great pace, forgets what they've done or forgets their cold face, without things like Krumlins who fight for the past, we'll forget how our future is wonderfully cast. So, to the adults in the room. So sometimes your teacher, your mummy or dad, will look all nostalgic or a little bit sad. But that's not a bad thing, or boring, or mean. It's that they remember things not on a screen. But before we had internet, social and stuff, people did work in the dark and the dust. And that's why you have all the things you have now. And one day your children will wonder just how. Because the things that you have will be old and forgotten, and the ones you remember will be dust and all rotten. But as long as you help things like Krumlins keep going, whatever comes next will keep dusty winds blowing.